this September. Bad blood will be settled.
This is more than personal.
The long-awaited trilogy.
There's real bad blood here.
Canelo versus Triple G. September 17th, live on DAZN pay-per-view. Visit DAZN.com.
Lovely. This is Harry Judd for Boxing Social in association with Fred. We're here at the Shields Marshall weigh-in, but unfortunately, due to the death of our longest reigning monarch, we have got confirmation that the show is cancelled. I'm delighted to be joined though by Andy Clarke. First of all, give me your first reaction.
It's just so disappointing for everybody involved. I understand why they've taken the decision. But for fighters peaking for this one night, you know, top ranker over from America, I just saw Tim Bradley and Andre Ward wandering around. This is the scale of event that it was. It still will be when they get it back on. But Bob Arum's here. Boxer have done an amazing job, I think, during the week with the events, and I think tomorrow night was going to be spectacular. You know, it's not been cancelled, like it's been postponed, but it's just such a shame. It's such a shame, and I guess my feeling yesterday was that this was probably what was going to happen, but then the longer you go without it being confirmed, and then you hear that a weigh-in's happening, you kind of get your hopes up that it's going to happen. But I can't say I'm surprised that they've gone this route. The Board of Control have cancelled all boxing tournaments as they described them up and down the country. And if they decide you can't do one, then it's all or nothing, isn't it? But I really, really feel for everyone involved here, but also small hall promoters who couldn't put on shows for pretty much 2 years. They barely got back up and running, and all of a sudden they've got to shut their shows down this weekend. Hopefully it's just this weekend. I don't see any reason. I mean, do you? Why this would stretch into another weekend?
No, not at all. But yeah, can you try to, as best you can, take me into the mind of the fighters? How frustrated will they be about this announcement?
I mean, hugely, because what they'll have to do now is it's 5 weeks. It's October the 15th, so they'll probably have a week off, maybe a little bit more than that, and then you've got to try and taper up to that peak again. And it's a difficult thing to do. And with the way everything's been run this week, you know, the anticipation for them would have been building all the time. I know that they both felt they were in sensational shape, all four of them, the top four, you know, Mayer, Baumgardner, Shields, Marshall. I know everyone says that, but they looked like they were as well, didn't they? You know, physically, they look great. Mentally, they seem to be really sharp and really on point. So it's just, I don't think any of them have probably really experienced this before either, because they've all had relatively brief professional careers. So it's hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. The overseas fighters want to get home as fast as they can, and yeah, everybody's scrambling doing that at the minute, aren't they? And yeah, I mean, I can't. When you work in boxing, you get used to kind of things falling off at the last minute, but it's a different ball game for the actual fighters than it is. We know how disappointing it is when something doesn't turn out. I think you've got to times it by at least 10 if you put in that amount of effort that they have.
If it would have gone ahead, because the weigh-in was rescheduled, it was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. You know, we didn't really know when they were going to weigh in. Hypothetically, if it would have gone on, how would have that affected the fight? If there was, you know, for example, there was a decision that we didn't expect, you know, could there be a chance that this weigh-in would have affected maybe some of the results?
Well, I think, yeah, if it had gone ahead tomorrow night, then it's exceptional circumstances, and it wouldn't really have been ideal, as much as we all kind of hoped that it was going to survive. It reminded me a bit of the start of COVID. I remember at the start of COVID, I was due to commentate on the show on the Friday night, a Golden Contract, and then there was the Super Series final, on the next day. And I was desperately hoping that those would still somehow manage to happen, but it just wouldn't. It absolutely would not have been the same. And if you then turned in a poor performance, I think that's what you would look at, is you would say, look, I was absolutely flying until Thursday afternoon, and then everything just got turned on its head. And you know, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have lost. I mean, I think it would be difficult not to say that if you were in that position. It's just really, so many things have happened the last couple of years. It's just like you do kind of wonder when it's going to end. And I know we need to be mindful of the fact
when it's going to level out a little bit.
And I know we need to be mindful of the fact that this has happened because the Queen has passed away, and we all knew that was going to be a huge event whenever it occurred, and that she was 96, so it was coming sooner rather than later, and people plan for these kinds of things, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens in the next few days, because the public reaction has been quite interesting from a sporting point of view. There's not much appetite for things to be cancelled. I think people understand, but there's not. I mean, I think they understand to an extent, but I don't think they really feel like. Personally, the Queen was 96, and full respect should be paid and tributes made and condolences given. But this isn't a tragedy. A 96-year-old passing away, somebody who led a very good life. It's a cause of celebration. And I'm not saying that what the Queen would have wanted would be for all sport to continue. That's a very trite thing to say. But I just do think that people need to be, I don't know, it's an each to their own kind of situation, isn't it? We'll just have to see what happens in the next few days.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. But, Andy, thanks to Boxing Social. It is unprecedented. Again, I think the boxer were put into a corner and had no choice but to cancel the show. But for all of us here, it's a shame. But, we look forward to the rescheduled date. But again, Andy, thanks to Boxing Social, mate.
No problem.
This September, Bad Blood will be settled.
This is more than personal.
The long-awaited trilogy.
There's real bad blood here.
Canelo versus Triple G. September 17th, live on DAZN pay-per-view. Visit DAZN.com.